Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Brian's Horror Corner, and welcome to this horror anthology movie review video as part of my current March 2024 series, where I'm taking a look at different horror anthology movies from my collection. Many of which are first time watches for me as part of this series, including today's movie that we're going to be taking a look at, and that is from 1975, Trilogy of Terror, with Karen Black here, which I have on DVD, the Kino Lorber DVD release here. So yeah, let's just go ahead and get into Trilogy of Terror. So Trilogy of Terror is a 1975 American made-for-television anthology horror film directed by Dan Curtis and starring Karen Black. It features three segments, each based on unrelated short stories by Richard Matheson, who's pretty well known from the original Twilight Zone series, as well as other things. The first two segments were adapted by William F. Nolan. Black stars in all three segments and plays dual roles in the second segment. Yeah, I think the third segment was adapted directly from Richard Matheson, but the first two were William F. Nolan. So the film was first aired as an ABC Movie of the Week on March 4th, 1975. Black initially turned down the project, but reconsidered when her then husband, Robert Burton, was cast in the first segment, Julie. A television film sequel titled Trilogy of Terror 2, written and also directed by Dan Curtis, was released in 1996. So yeah, as the title would indicate, there's three stories to this anthology. They're entitled Julie, Millicent and Therese, and Amelia. So all female names are the titles of these three stories. So I'll just kind of go through each of the stories and give a synopsis and the cast, and then I'll get into my review of the overall movie. So the first one, entitled Julie, stars Karen Black, of course, as Julie, Robert Burton, her then husband, as Chad Rogers, Jim Storm as Eddie Nels, Gregory Harrison as the new student, Catherine Reynolds as Ann Richards, and Orrin Cannon as the motel clerk. This is basically a story about a college professor named Julie, played by Karen Black, of course, and she gets approached by this student, Robert Burton, who plays Chad Rogers, who basically likes her and asks her out on a date, and they end up going to a movie, and things just kind of evolve from there. And she knows that she really shouldn't be doing it, but it ends up sort of escalating, and it kind of goes from there. I don't want to give too much away, but that's the first story. The second story, entitled Millicent and Therese, we have Karen Black as Millicent / Therese, John Carlin as Thomas Amman, George Gaines as Dr. Chester Ramsey, and Tracy Curtis as Tracy. This one is basically about two sisters who really are very, very different from each other. The one sister's really got her hair tied back, wears glasses, very, very prim and proper, and the other sister's wild and basically hits on guys, including her own dad, I guess, back when they were kids. And I think the sister figures that that the evil sister, she thinks the sister's evil, basically, because they're just so opposite. And she basically thinks that she killed her own mother, even though it was thought to be a suicide. So Millicent and Therese is the second story. And then the third story is entitled Amelia. And this one really only has Karen Black as Amelia in it. And then you have Walker Edmiston, who's on credit as the voice of the Zuni doll. This is the one that's most well known, or the one that people think of when they hear Trilogy of Terror, this little Zuni doll. But basically this is about a woman who has to break off an engagement she had with her mother. She calls her on the phone because she's involved with this guy that she wants to go out with, and she's got this present that she got, this Zuni doll, for him, that has like a gold chain around its neck to protect the person that's in possession of it from having the evil spirit that lies within it basically come out and wreak havoc. And so of course you can imagine this chain doesn't necessarily stay where it's supposed to, and that's kind of the premise and the idea for that one. So Amelia. So Overall, guys, I enjoyed this anthology. I kind of had a feeling I would. Although I'm surprised, a lot of people say that the third segment, entitled Amelia with the doll, is the only one that's worth watching. I disagree with that. I kind of enjoyed all three shorts, to be honest with you, for what they were. Obviously, to varying degrees, I have my ranking of the three that I'll give at the end of this review here. But I got enjoyment out of all three of them, and I think it starts with my very first pro as to why, and that's Karen Black. I think that she's brilliant in all three of these stories, playing such different roles and characters. I just think she does a really great job with each of them, and in my opinion, she takes this TV anthology to being cult status like it is today. I just think her presence, her performance, all the different characters that she plays really just takes this from just sort of a meh TV anthology movie to being a cult classic that many people talk about, almost 50 years later now. And so yeah, Karen Black deserves all the credit. I thought she just adds so much to this anthology movie. Also, all three of the stories are really well written. They're really well executed. There isn't a bad or boring one here in the entire bunch, in my opinion. I think they're all three really fun and interesting, for the stories and the ideas that they are. I really like the effects and the look of the Zuni doll in the third story, in the final segment. The effect of how it moves around and the look of obviously how it looks when we see it. I think that's very well done, as well as the final shot on Karen Black with her. I don't want to give too much away, but with her teeth or sort of alternative persona, if you will. If you've seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about. But that final shot of her just kind of waiting as she's squatting down on the floor is just brilliant, especially for a TV anthology movie. It's just a brilliant shot, very creepy and interesting, and I really enjoyed it. And then my final pros, I really loved the twist at the end of the first story. It was a twist that I totally didn't see coming, and I really enjoyed it. It just really is kind of out there, but when you look back on it, it makes some sense. And I thought it was just very well done, very well written and executed, and really enjoyable. So those are my pros for Trilogy of Terror with Karen Black. As far as cons go, of course, it is a made-for-TV anthology, so you're not going to get your typical rated R, bad language, nudity, a lot of blood and gore. There's a little bit of blood in the third story with the Zuni doll, but I mean, this isn't the kind of movie that you're going to see a lot of blood and gore and on-screen violence, because it is a TV anthology, and especially back in the 70s, where they were only allowed to show so much. So for people that are more about the gore and the blood and the kills, and they're probably not going to enjoy this anthology quite as much. My biggest disappointment with it, as I've said with other horror anthologies that I've reviewed, is this movie has no connecting tissue other than Karen Black, who stars in all three segments and really holds the movie together. But there's nothing that really ties these stories together in terms of a framing story or a wraparound story or anything like that. They're basically just three different stories that are introduced separately with nothing to tie them together other than Karen Black, as I mentioned. And that's okay. Some anthologies, that's okay. But for me, I enjoy the framing or connecting tissue story that binds it all together, if you will. So that was kind of a bummer for me with this movie. Just something I have to point out. A couple smaller nitpicks. The second segment, I thought, could have had a bit more backstory and exploration to it to make the twist and that second story land a little bit better than it does. I thought it was kind of I don't want to say it was obvious, but it was kind of predictable in a way. And I think if they would have, that story seems to be the shortest of the three. I don't know, maybe it just feels like that. Like the first story feels like it's the longest, and then the third story is pretty decent runtime, and then the second story seems kind of shorter than it necessarily needed to be. The whole movie's only 72 minutes, by the way. I'm sure it was probably a 90-minute ABC movie of the week when it was on, but with commercials, 90 minutes, and obviously without it was 72. So it is a short anthology movie. So if you're looking for something that's tightly packaged and not overly long, then that's another pro that I can give this movie. It is efficient in its runtime, but except for that second story, I thought they could have added a few minutes onto that one. And then in the first segment, the college students, it's clear that the actors that are playing the college students basically look to be in their 30s. So it's kind of unrealistic when we're supposed to believe that these are college students in this Professor Julie's class. It just doesn't really work. They basically look the same age that she does, and in some cases maybe even older. Because Karen Black, I think, was around 30 or 35 when this movie was made. So, but yeah, other than that, guys, I really enjoyed this horror anthology. I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. I think for what it is, again, it's you're not going to have blood and gore, you're not going to have nudity, and you don't have the wraparound connecting tissue. But the three individual stories, I think, are very well done. I think they're very well conceived, very well written. They all kind of have a twist at the end of them. Some that work better than others. I don't think the second story twist works as well as the first or the third story twist. But there's a lot put into this, you can tell, and especially when you consider that it's a made-for-TV anthology. I got to give it more props because of that, meaning it didn't have a big budget for it. But they did have Karen Black, and that's really what makes this movie, in my opinion. So 8 out of 10 overall for Trilogy of Terror. I almost said Trilogy of Terror. I've heard some people say it that way. As far as how I would rank these stories, I agree with most people that I think Amelia, the one with the Zuni doll, the wooden doll that chases her around the apartment, is the best one. But I don't dismiss the other two like a lot of people do either. I think my second favorite would probably be the first one, Julie, about the college professor and the young guy, Chad Rogers, who's also a photography, by the way. That plays into that story. That just has a really great twist, the best twist of the whole anthology. And then my third favorite would be Millicent and Therese. Not that it's a bad story. I still really enjoy it. Like I said, I think if they would have had a little bit more longer runtime for that second story, I think it would have been even better. But overall, I like all three of the stories. So yeah, that's my review for Trilogy of Terror from 1975 with Karen Black. Go ahead and comment down below if you guys have seen this movie, what you think of it. Rank the stories how you like them down below in the comment section. I'd be interested to see. Please like this video, hit the little notification bell down below so you don't miss any of my upcoming reviews for this series. And please be sure to subscribe to my channel as well so you don't miss any of my great horror content. Not only the rest of this series, but what I have coming up for the rest of the year and into next year, frankly. A lot of great horror content. So with that being said, I hope you guys are enjoying this anthology review series. Hope everybody's doing well. But as always, you know it, stay scared. Bye, everyone.